Ever wonder what secrets the world's biggest companies are hiding in plain sight? We often think of journalists or whistleblowers as the ones who expose corporate wrongdoing. But sometimes the most shocking truths don't come from a news report. They come from a courtroom. Lawsuits, often filed by seemingly ordinary people or smaller competitors, have a unique power to pry open the most tightly sealed corporate vaults. Today, we re-diving into some of the most jaw-dropping corporate lawsuits that exposed secrets the world simply could not ignore. From Big Tobacco's lies to the environmental disasters they tried to cover up. Get ready to see how the legal system forced these giants to face the music. Let's start with a case that literally changed the air we breathe. In the 1990s, everyone knew cigarettes were bad for you, but the full extent of the industry's deception was still a closely guarded secret. Tobacco companies publicly denied that nicotine was addictive and even manipulated nicotine levels to keep smokers hooked. It seemed like an impenetrable fortress of lies. That is until the state of Minnesota, along with its partner Blue Cross and Blue Shield, filed a massive lawsuit in 1994. They weren't just seeking money for healthcare costs. They wanted documents. And they got them. The discovery process in this lawsuit unearthed millions of pages of internal memos, marketing plans, and scientific research. These documents proved, in the company's own words, that they had known for decades that nicotine was highly addictive. They also knew about the deadly health consequences of smoking and deliberately targeted young people in their advertising to create a new generation of customers. One infamous memo even referred to their target audience as replacement smokers. The release of these Tobacco Master settlement agreement documents was a bombshell. It led to a landmark settlement where the industry agreed to pay billions and fundamentally change how they marketed their products. It was a stunning victory, not just for the lawyers, but for public health worldwide, all because a lawsuit demanded the truth. Now, let's shift from public health to the environment. The name Erin Brockovich probably rings a bell thanks to the famous movie, but the real story is just as incredible. In the 1990s, residents of Hinckley, a small town in California, were suffering from a mysterious wave of illnesses. They had no idea their health problems were linked to the local Pacific Gas and Electric, or PG&E, compressor station. The company had been using a chemical called hexavalent chromium to prevent rust in its cooling towers. And for years, they had been dumping the contaminated wastewater into unlined ponds. This toxic chemical then seeped into the groundwater, poisoning the town's water supply. Erin Brockovich, a legal clerk with no formal law education, started digging. She tirelessly collected evidence and stories from hundreds of residents. The subsequent lawsuit filed by the law firm Masri and Vitito accused PG&E of knowingly contaminating the water and trying to cover it up. The company had told residents the chromium was harmless and even paid for their own doctors to downplay the health risks. The legal battle forced PG&E to turn over records they had fought hard to keep hidden. In 1996, the case was settled for $333 million, the largest direct action lawsuit settlement in U.S. history at the time. It was a monumental win for the little guy and a stark reminder that even the most powerful corporations can be held accountable for environmental negligence. Let's move into the world of tech. Think about your smartphone. It's a marvel of engineering. But what if its core technology was built on a lie? That was the central question in a massive legal feud between Apple and Samsung. For years, these two giants battled in courtrooms across the globe, accusing each other of patent infringement. Apple fired the first shot in 2011, claiming that Samsung's Galaxy phones and tablets had shamelessly copied the look, feel, and technology of the iPhone and iPad. Apple's lawyers argued that Samsung had stolen everything from the rectangular shape with rounded corners to the grid of colorful icons on the home screen. The lawsuits provided a fascinating and previously unseen look behind the curtain at Apple's famously secretive design process. Internal emails from Steve Jobs, prototypes that never saw the light of day, and sketches from Jony Ive's design studio were all presented as evidence. On the other side, Samsung's internal documents revealed their own anxieties about competing with the iPhone. One document detailed a feature-by-feature comparison, highlighting how their own phones fell short and urging designers to close the gap. The trials exposed the intense, sometimes desperate, strategies tech companies use to gain an edge. While the legal battle was complex and spanned years, it ultimately revealed just how much inspiration versus innovation happens in the high-stakes world of consumer electronics. Now for a story of corporate greed that led to one of the biggest financial scandals in history, Enron. In the late 90s, Enron was the seventh largest company in America, an energy trading powerhouse that Wall Street adored. Its stock was soaring, and its executives were celebrated as visionaries. But it was all a house of cards. Enron was using a complex and deceptive accounting scheme to hide billions of dollars in debt and inflate its earnings. They created special purpose entities, which are basically shell companies, to make their financial statements look much healthier than they actually were. The truth began to unravel not because of a single lawsuit, but a cascade of them, starting with shareholder lawsuits filed in 2001. As the stock price plummeted, investors who had lost their life savings wanted answers. These lawsuits, combined with an investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission, forced the company to open its books. What they found was a deliberate, systematic fraud orchestrated at the highest levels. Emails and internal documents showed that executives knew the company was sinking, but continued to lie to the public and their own employees, encouraging them to buy more stock while they were secretly selling off their own shares. The collapse of Enron was swift and devastating, leading to criminal convictions for top executives and the dissolution of Arthur Andersen, one of the world's top accounting firms, for its role in the cover-up. It was a brutal lesson in corporate accountability. Finally, let's talk about the automotive industry, where safety secrets can have fatal consequences. In the early 2000s, Ford faced a storm of lawsuits over its popular Explorer SUV, which was involved in a high number of rollover accidents, many resulting in tragedy. The accidents were often linked to tire failures, specifically with Firestone tires that were standard equipment on the Explorer. Firestone blamed the vehicle design and Ford blamed the tires. For a long time, the public was caught in the middle of a corporate blame game. But as lawsuits from victims' families mounted, the discovery process began to tell a different story. Internal documents from both Ford and Firestone, brought to light through litigation, showed that both companies had concerns about the safety combination long before it became a public crisis. Ford's own internal tests had indicated that the Explorer had a high propensity to roll over under certain conditions. Memos revealed that Ford engineers had recommended design changes, like widening the vehicle's track, but were overruled by management to save costs and speed up production. Similarly, Firestone had data showing high failure rates for its tires in hot climates. But this information wasn't shared widely. The lawsuits forced this hidden data into the public domain, leading to one of the largest tire recalls in history, and pushing Congress to pass the Tread Act, which requires automakers to be more transparent about safety defects. These cases are more than just legal battles. They're stories of how the pursuit of justice can uncover truths that corporations would rather keep buried. From tobacco and toxic waste to tech secrets and financial fraud, lawsuits have proven to be one of the most powerful tools we have for holding power to account. They remind us that behind the glossy advertisements and corporate press releases, there's a paper trail. And sometimes, it just takes one lawsuit to follow it. Thanks for watching. If you found this look into corporate secrets as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Let me know in the comments which corporate lawsuit you think had the biggest impact. See you in the next one.